Hello, hi everyone, I'm back. I just want to say hello, and today we'll have a very short discussion of a very interesting topic called the fear of failure. And I would like to explain this concept to everyone, and particularly this is very relevant to students and teachers because this is part of our daily activity, and we always are confronted with fear. From the most simple thing when you see a little insect crawl by and you don't want it to be close to you unless you are an entomologist. Or sometimes we have certain kinds of fears within ourselves that prevents us from wanting to do certain things. Now, the kind of fear is actually through evolutionary process within us that we all have fear. It's almost like genetically programmed in us. So today I want to talk about this idea of fear of failure and how it can prevent us from becoming better. So hello friends, please when you're here just say hi. I would like to see that you're here, and after we have a few people, then we'll go into the topic. So today we're going to talk about the fear of failure. Now, ever since childhood, we have been taught to be careful. Don't do this because you might fall, or don't go to the stove. Don't play with anything that's burning hot because we're going to burn ourselves. Now, we have been programmed to learn fear since a very early age. And when we were at the beginning, we didn't really know what's going on. We could be fearful if something is imminently coming towards us and being threatening, but we are unable to project into the circumstances to know that is something scary. So how come we gradually learn to become more and more fearful and up to a point that we fear failure? Now, this topic is very relevant whether you're a teacher or your student or even your parent, because we all are confronted with some kind of fear, and we may be aware of it, but we may not be aware. We are generally programmed to be aware of danger, and we become very alert towards it, and the fear is kind of self-protective so that we won't be affected by something that's eminently dangerous. But now, as we get further from the evolutionary status that we are learning and we are growing, if we fear to fail, it's going to cause us actually a lot of learning opportunities. Because imagine in a young child, when they're learning to walk, what happens? They fall. Or when they're trying to ride a bicycle, along the way you have to fall many, many times before you feel safe and you are able to control it and you feel in command. So failure or not being yet to achieve during the process of learning is a necessary part, and that does not define who you are, that you are actually not achieving. Is different, because the difference is between when you fail, and everybody is going to fail in the process of trying to get used to doing something, is your attitude. If you're able to move on or you just give up. Now here, friends, hi, would you like to just say hi so I know that you are here, and tell me where you're from? And at the same time, if you like what I'm saying and if you just came in, stay for a little longer, because I'm sure what I'm going to say is going to be useful content for you when applied to your daily life. It's not just always confined to piano performance and music, but of course it has a very important relevance to that as well. So when we have fear, we kind of feel inhibited. Now, the sense of fear is actually genetically programmed in us. When we see something dangerous or when we perceive threat, the first sense is, in terms of the chemical bodies, you have a rise in adrenaline level and you become nervous. You have confronted with a situation that's dangerous, and you have two responses: to fight or fright and freeze. Now, in the sense of fighting or freezing, these are our most primordial responses to danger. And that is fear. Now, when we are in a state of fear, while we're getting to fight or we run away or we freeze, actually it goes to the muscles, but also at the same time prevents us from making rational judgment to decide what we should do, because we are at the most superficial physical level and we are stuck there. So we cannot cognitively plan what we should do or intelligently revise the game plan of what we can do to further improve ourselves or to get out of the situation intelligently. So being stuck in this fight or fright mode doesn't help us. On the other hand, if we don't see this situation as something dangerous and it won't trigger that sense of fear, then we are at a better situation where we can calmly figure out what our solutions are. So going back to fear of failure. Now, this is actually a double negative. Fear is something negative and failure is something negative. Now, the truth is, when you talk or think in negative language, there are some cognitive triggers that when you have fear, it triggers all the negative aspects in your human physiology. And failure, the same thing. It triggers cognitively all the bad associations with failure. If you put these double negatives together, it doesn't, like mathematics, it doesn't really negative and negative forms positive. Negative and negative, yes, the idea is afraid of something negative, but it doesn't bring you in your personality or your abilities to cope or adapt in a better way. So we don't actually want to think about fear and failure. The easiest way to overcome this fear of failure is we don't think about failure, we think about success. In order to achieve success, now success is a positive language which triggers out the good senses, the good memories associated with it. From the failure, we turn it to success, but failure is a necessary step for us to derive our feedback and to change our corrective mechanism so that we can head for the positive, the success. Just like in medical experiments, before you achieve to get the final drug or vaccine, you have to have many, many clinical trials. And in between, there are so many failures. It's necessary to steer and veer you towards the right path. You cannot ever have no failures. That's impossible. But it depends on how you respond to that failure. If you see it as a set of data to give you the relevant direction of where you should be heading to, then it helps you steer towards your goal to reach your point of success. So failure is not necessarily something negative that we should fear or avoid. In the old Chinese proverbial saying, they say, 失敗是成功之母, which means failing is the precursor of success. The direct translation is failure is the mother of success. So from failure, success can be born. So if we avoid failure, there's no way that we can culminate and get the feedback and gradually shape up and refine our course of action to reach success. So we need to think of it even by framing the thoughts in a very different manner. So instead of the fear negative of failure, we're thinking of success, and failure is a part of leading to your pathway of success. Now, there are some people who fear success. It's true, because they feel that they will be alone, or that they would be looked at in very different perceptions. So we're not talking about that, but in terms of the fear, we don't want ever in our process of learning or doing any kind of task, if we want to accomplish it, with good results. We're not talking about negative attributes. We always try to find something positive that we want to look forward to. So how do we achieve success? We acknowledge that failure is a necessary part. And it's dependent on us, on how we extract our knowledge from seemingly failures, which actually are very good feedback to give to us. We need to look at why we fail. What's the conditions that are not optimal? And what is our process that should be shaped up so that we can be more efficient? Now, whether this is from the beginning stage, like a young child preparing for an examination, an evaluation, you can look back. If it failed, is it because you lack preparation? Is it the way you prepare that's not conducive to this exam? Are you really clear about the objective and goals of this exam? All that will provide you with ways to develop and become better in what you're preparing for. And also, avoid the sense of fear, because your sense of self and ability to conquer the difficulties will gradually increase if you are not thinking in negative terms, which caps you down and confines your sense of extending yourself to explore the world and the discipline. Now, up to here, I appreciate you being here, and if you could, please share this. You just click at the button to share, because there are a lot of people I know, including teachers, students, that can benefit from this mindset. Sometimes whether you succeed or fail is contingent on other people looking at you. I remember one incident that I played in a concert, and I played pretty badly. And I was very unhappy. But anyways, after that, inside, I was cringing, and I thought, well, I prepared a lot better. I didn't deliver myself. I kind of felt ashamed, and it wasn't a good feeling. So I went out, and the audience were applauding like crazy. They were so happy. They were cheering, and I couldn't answer to myself, and I felt totally like a hypocrite, like I played so badly. But the audience was so cheerful. They were so elated. So I thanked them. I felt really bad inside. Now, I realized after this process, I thought about, and I said, actually, the recognition you get has nothing to do with what you feel inside. You might feel totally like a failure, but because you might have very high standards for yourself, and you felt that you have failed by your own assessment. But other people were not only looking at that. Probably they have other means, other things that they're looking for that they were very happy about, and they cheered for you. On the other hand, there were some times where I felt I really did a good job. I did everything I delivered, but the content or somehow the delivery was not well received by an audience. So, is that a failure? By my standard, I really did my best, and I achieved my purpose, and I felt it was really good. But the audience didn't like it. So you have to see that it could be from an internal assessment. Success or failure is very much a sense of perception, that from your internal assessment or from the outside. The truth is you cannot control what comes from the outside. You can only do the best to prepare for it, but you can do a lot from how you feel inside and how you prepare it so that you satisfy your parameters of success. So I also learned that is not because of what other people outside is thinking about us, but what we're doing and how we internally make the changes to adapt. So I think it is important to revisit our mindset sometimes about this kind of fear. Today we talked about fear of failure. We might have other forms of fear. And for example, fear of difficulty, so you don't want to move on, and it becomes procrastination. Everything just sits there not going anywhere because it's the fear of difficulty, the fear of getting out of your comfort zone. So these things, I think, are a natural part of the human condition. We all have that to a certain extent, whether we address it or acknowledge it or not, or just we don't even feel that we are aware of it. But I have encountered a lot of situations in my teaching where when I'm with my students, some of them are reluctant to try. I show them the path and they don't want to do it. Now, from the outsider's perspective, from the parents or from other people, they would say, this student is totally unmotivated. They don't want to do it. So just don't bother. But some of them, particularly those who are very serious with a perfectionist mindset, and they are too young to know that, they don't want to do because they don't want to fail. They don't want to fail because they don't want to disappoint the people around them. And because why? They framed their worldview outside of themselves. They feel that their role is to please others, to get the acknowledgement of others. If not, they haven't succeeded. So they feel uncertain. Am I trying this time? Is it all going to make it work? They're not sure. So they dare not move the first step. And they don't want to do anything is because of the fear of failure. So as teachers, if we're working with a student like that, the first step I would do is to acknowledge that failure is a part of the learning process. We all go through it. It doesn't make you less by failing along the steps. And I also even do something very crazy. When I detect any sense that a child has a bit of this perfectionist mentality, or they're just not eager to try because they're uncomfortable getting out of their bubble zone. So they fear of failing. So now I'm going to twist the story around and I'm going to acknowledge failure. How do we do that? So I told them, I said, I know when you play this, there may be a few ways to play to get it right. Is that true? And probably they might acknowledge, they might not say anything. And I said, the next step is, I want you to show me all the other wrong ways. When they are told that I acknowledge the wrong ways and I want to see it, they are doing it comfortably. And so they will show me something that's absolutely wrong. They feel comfortable because right now I am changing my standards as a teacher. I acknowledge the wrong things and I want to see the wrong things. And one cute kid even told me, what if I try to show you something wrong and if it's right? I said, even better. Then it shows me that you know what is the right, but we're interested in the wrong. But if you know what's right and it happened through you, that means you know the right thing naturally. That's great. But let's work on it. Show me some wrong things. Now, they immediately opened up because I changed the working environment. I allowed, and in fact, I celebrate the wrong things. There's no sense of fear because there's no failure. And the failure is being acknowledged. So, as educators, what we have is a lot of power. We can change the circumstances so that we make it viable and we turn it into a positive playing field for the child. Because right now, if you acknowledge failure is a part of learning. So I would tell them, show me all the mistakes. What else can we get wrong there? And the child is very eager. They say, well, this is wrong, that's wrong. And then any other, they start to do the right things because now they run out of options. They run out of all the wrong ideas. They start doing the right things. And I said, hey, great. You know how to do the right things. So actually, there's nothing to fear. So I find it very useful. The concept is stemming from fear of failure or fear of anything. If, as an educator, in the process when we interact with a student, we acknowledge them and acknowledge the situation, change the situation. You have the power to change the situation. You have every power to show them that this, in the process, what is determined to be right, what's determined to be wrong, and you give them this safety net. and they're not cringing in this fight or flight, fearful mode to make sure that under assessment, they're getting the right answer. Well, for me, in the old educational style, I went through a lot of stress because teachers in the old times, I'm talking about in the early 70s, they were expecting the right answer. And what I would be encountered is if I did something wrong, well, you'll be punished. From there comes the fear. So now when we are adults and we're in the interaction with younger children, let's set up an environment so that fear doesn't even come into the equation in the learning process. Of course, it doesn't mean that, well, you don't teach the kid to be fearful of something dangerous. But the learning environment, under our hands, within our control, we can make it a very pleasant experience. And we acknowledge whatever is in the process, including the errors, the failures, anything wrong, so that they become the stepping stone for something that's right. So I hope this is useful to all of you, and I find that to be quite helpful to me in my process of learning, because in my studies or in my preparation for all my concerts, even in my teaching, I went through a lot of experiences that can be perceived as failures. But if you bootstrap yourself, pull yourself up, you can ultimately improve yourself and build towards the road of success. So I really hope that you like what I'm sharing with you today, and share this with others, because my sole motivation is for everyone to develop a positive learning atmosphere internally within yourself and also with those that you are helping currently, so that the learning process can be a lot more positive and a lot more pleasant. So thank you for being here today. And if you like what I'm saying, so please share. And you can also visit my page under Dr. Angela Chan, Dr. Angela Chan Piano /fan. That's under the Facebook page. I will include my link down there. And also, one good news for everyone. I know there's a very important demand for the beginner's piano technique, and I'm currently creating the new video package for the concert artist approach to the beginner's piano technique, on all the setup on how to play physically and all the technique from the very, very basic level. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. So just please write for me. You write beginner's piano technique. Beginner's piano technique. And I look forward to sharing this package with you in about a month. And I'll see you there. Bye. Have a good day.